The emergency room never sleeps. At 3 in the morning, when the rest of the city is wrapped in darkness, the fluorescent lights buzz overhead like restless insects. Dr. Elena Rodriguez has learned to love these hours, though love might be the wrong word. She tolerates them. She needs them. The night shift keeps her mind occupied, keeps her hands busy, keeps her from thinking about the things she desperately wants to forget. Elena is 34 years old, though she feels much older. Her colleagues sometimes joke that she lives at the hospital, and they're not entirely wrong. She picks up extra shifts, volunteers for the overnight rotations that nobody else wants, and rarely takes vacation days. Her apartment, a small studio across town, has become little more than a place to shower and change clothes. She tells everyone she's dedicated to her work, passionate about saving lives. And that's true, but it's not the whole truth. The whole truth is that 6 months ago something broke inside her, not all at once like a bone snapping, but slowly like a crack spreading through glass. It started with a case. A young girl who came in with symptoms that seemed manageable at first. Elena did everything right. She followed every protocol, made every correct decision, called for every consultation. But sometimes medicine has its limits. Sometimes, despite everyone's best efforts, despite all the knowledge and technology and desperate prayers, a life slips away like water through cupped hands. The girl's name was Lily. She was 12 years old, with bright eyes and a smile that could light up a room even when she was feeling her worst. Her mother stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand, whispering encouragements, believing with every fiber of her being that her daughter would pull through. When Lily didn't make it, when the monitors went flat and the room fell silent except for the mother's screams, something inside Elena went silent too. There was an investigation, as there always is when a child passes away in a hospital. Colleagues reviewed every decision Elena made, examined every chart note, questioned every medication order. They found nothing wrong. Elena had done her job perfectly. But perfect doesn't always mean enough, and being cleared of wrongdoing doesn't erase the image of a mother's face twisted in grief, doesn't silence the accusations shouted in hallways, doesn't bring back a little girl who should have had her whole life ahead of her. Since that night, Elena has started counting her breaths. Not intentionally at first. It began as a tightness in her chest during a particularly busy shift, a feeling like she'd forgotten how to breathe normally. She found herself gulping air, her heart racing, her hands trembling as she tried to focus on a patient. She'd excused herself, rushed to the bathroom, and stood in front of the mirror watching her reflection gasp like a fish pulled from water. The panic attacks became more frequent. Sometimes they hit her during rounds, sometimes while she was driving home, sometimes in the middle of the night when she'd finally convinced herself to try sleeping. Each time the same thought would crash through her mind like a wave. What if she made a mistake? What if she wasn't good enough? What if she failed someone else? Tonight feels like any other night. The ER is moderately busy, the usual mixture of accidents and illnesses and situations that couldn't wait until morning. Elena moves through her responsibilities with practiced efficiency, checking vitals, ordering tests, stitching wounds, offering reassurances. She's become very good at appearing calm even when her insides feel like they're falling apart. Her smile is professional. Her voice is steady. Nobody would guess that beneath her white coat, her heart is beating too fast and her lungs feel too small. Around 4 in the morning, the ambulance brings in a young woman. The paramedics say her name is Natasha, age 28, found unconscious in a park by someone walking their dog. They suspect an overdose based on the scene, though the details are unclear. The woman is breathing but unresponsive, her lips slightly blue, her body limp on the stretcher. Elena springs into action. This is familiar territory. She calls for assistance, starts an IV line, orders blood work and toxicology screens. But as she examines the patient more closely, something feels off. The symptoms don't quite match a typical overdose. The breathing pattern is unusual. The pupil response is strange. Elena's medical instincts kick in. The part of her brain that loves puzzles, that finds satisfaction in connecting scattered symptoms into a coherent diagnosis. As she works, leaning over the patient, adjusting oxygen levels, and preparing medications, Elena feels her own breathing become labored. The familiar tightness starts in her chest. Not now, she thinks desperately. Please, not now. She forces herself to focus on the woman in front of her, on the monitors beeping steadily on the task at hand. Her hands remain steady even as her internal world begins to tilt. The team works together smoothly. Within 20 minutes, they've stabilized the patient enough for her to start regaining consciousness. Elena watches as the woman's eyes flutter open, unfocused at first, then gradually clearing. There's confusion in those eyes and pain and something else Elena can't quite name. Recognition, maybe? Or understanding. Natasha's hand suddenly reaches out and grabs Elena's wrist. The grip is weak but deliberate. Elena leans closer, expecting the patient to ask where she is or what happened. Instead, Natasha looks directly into Elena's eyes and whispers something that makes the doctor's blood run cold. "You forgot how to breathe slowly too, didn't you?" Elena pulls back slightly, startled. How could this stranger know? How could this woman who just regained consciousness see something Elena has been hiding so carefully? For a moment, doctor and patient simply stare at each other, and in that silence, something passes between them. A recognition of shared pain, perhaps. An acknowledgement of invisible wounds. Elena manages to compose herself. She assures Natasha that she's safe, that she's in a hospital, that they're taking care of her. But the woman's words echo in her mind long after she's moved on to other patients. "You forgot how to breathe slowly too." The rest of the shift passes in a blur. Elena learns from the social worker that Natasha used to be a meditation instructor, someone who taught others how to find peace and calm in their bodies. The irony isn't lost on anyone. Here's a woman who made her living teaching people to breathe, to center themselves, to find stillness, and she ended up unconscious in a park at 4 a.m. When Elena's shift finally ends and the morning light starts filtering through the hospital windows, she drives home in a daze. Natasha's words keep repeating in her mind like a song stuck on repeat. She parks her car, climbs the stairs to her apartment, unlocks her door, and steps inside. The space feels smaller than usual, the walls closer together. She makes it to her bedroom before it hits. The worst panic attack she's ever experienced. Her chest seizes up completely. She genuinely cannot remember how to breathe normally. Is it in through the nose or mouth? How long should each breath be? Why does something so automatic suddenly feel impossible? She drops to her knees, gasping, her vision starting to blur at the edges. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who lives next door and always seems to be awake at odd hours, hears the commotion. She finds Elena on the floor and immediately calls for help. As Elena lies there struggling for air, she thinks about Lily, about Natasha, about all the people she's tried to save while slowly losing herself. The last thought before everything goes dark is simple and terrifying. Maybe she's the one who needs saving now. 3 hours later, Elena wakes up in a hospital bed. Not her hospital, thankfully, but one across town where nobody knows her as Dr. Rodriguez. Here, she's just another patient wearing a thin gown, hooked up to monitors that beep with the same rhythm she's heard 1,000 times from the other side. The irony isn't lost on her. She spent the night trying to save someone else, and now she's the one being saved. A doctor she doesn't recognize comes in. A kind-faced man in his 50s who introduces himself as Dr. Patel. He tells her what she already knows. She had a severe panic attack that led to hyperventilation and fainting. Her oxygen levels dropped dangerously low. If Mrs. Chen hadn't heard her and called for help, things could have been much worse. He recommends therapy, maybe medication, definitely time off work to address what's clearly been building for a while. Elena nods along, agreeing to everything while planning to ignore most of it. She can't take time off. Work is the only thing holding her together, even if it's also the thing breaking her apart. It's a contradiction she doesn't know how to resolve. They discharge her that afternoon with a stack of referrals and instructions to follow up. Elena takes the papers, thanks everyone professionally, and leaves. She goes home, showers, tries to eat something but can't manage more than a few bites. Her phone has 17 missed calls and 32 text messages, mostly from concerned colleagues who heard about her collapse. She doesn't respond to any of them. Instead, she lies in bed and stares at the ceiling, thinking about the woman from last night. Natasha, the meditation instructor who lost her way. Elena wonders what her story is, what brought her to that park, what pain she was trying to escape. She wonders if Natasha is still in the hospital or if they've moved her to psychiatric care or a recovery facility. The next few days pass in a fog. Elena calls in sick to work, the first time she's done so in over 2 years. Her supervisor is understanding, even relieved. "Take the time you need," she says. "We've been worried about you." Elena resents the implication that people have been watching her, noticing her unraveling, but she's too exhausted to argue. She spends most of her time sleeping or pretending to sleep, Mrs. Chen checks on her daily, bringing soup and tea and gentle conversation that Elena tolerates but doesn't encourage. Her mother calls from across the country, having heard somehow, and Elena lies smoothly about how fine she is, how it was just a one-time thing, nothing to worry about. On the fourth day, Elena finds herself driving back to her hospital. Not to work, but to find Natasha. She's not sure why. Maybe it's professional concern. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's that strange connection she felt when their eyes met. And Natasha spoke those words that seemed to see straight through her carefully constructed walls. She uses her credentials to check the system and learns that Natasha was moved to the psychiatric unit for observation, but is scheduled to be discharged to a recovery facility the next day. Elena hesitates, knowing she shouldn't do what she's about to do, that it crosses professional boundaries and probably violates several hospital policies. But she does it anyway. She finds Natasha in a shared room, sitting by the window and staring out at the city below. The woman looks different in daylight, older and more worn than Elena remembered. There are lines around her eyes that speak of too many sleepless nights, too many tears. When Elena knocks softly on the doorframe, Natasha turns and for a moment doesn't seem to recognize her. Then her eyes clear and something like a smile touches her lips. "The doctor who couldn't breathe," Natasha says softly. Elena steps into the room, suddenly unsure why she came. "How did you know?" she finally asks. Natasha gestures to the empty chair beside her, and Elena sits. "Because I recognize it," Natasha says. "That look in your eyes, that tightness in your shoulders, the way you were trying so hard to appear calm while everything inside you was screaming. I know it because I've lived it." They sit in silence for a moment. Through the window, the city continues its endless motion. People going about their lives, unaware of the small dramas playing out in hospital rooms. "I used to teach meditation," Natasha begins, and her voice is distant, like she's talking about someone else entirely. "I had my own studio, a good reputation, clients who trusted me. I taught people how to breathe through stress, how to find calm in chaos, how to be present in their bodies. It was my calling, or at least I thought it was." She pauses, swallowing hard. 2 years ago, I was driving home from a workshop. It was raining. One of those storms where you can barely see 2 feet in front of your car. My husband was in the passenger seat. My son was in the back playing some game on his tablet. He was only 7. So small still, you know. Still believed in magic and superheroes. Elena feels her chest tighten but forces herself to keep breathing steadily. She knows where this story is going. She's heard too many versions of it in her years at the hospital. "A truck ran a red light," Natasha continues, her voice flat now, emotionless. "They say the driver fell asleep. Just dozed off for a few seconds, but a few seconds is all it takes. The truck hit us on the passenger side. My husband died instantly. My son held on for 6 hours before his injuries were too much. I walked away with a broken arm and a concussion. That's it, a broken arm." The silence that follows feels heavy enough to crush them both. Elena wants to say something, offer some comfort, but she knows from experience that there are no words adequate for this kind of pain. "After that, I couldn't teach anymore," Natasha says. "How could I? How could I tell people to breathe through their stress when I couldn't breathe through mine? How could I preach mindfulness when every time I closed my eyes I saw my son's face? I tried to keep going. I really did. But eventually I lost the studio, lost my home, started looking for ways to not feel anything at all, and here I am." "I'm sorry," Elena whispers, and the words feel painfully inadequate. Natasha looks at her directly. "What's your story?" Elena wants to deflect, to maintain her professional distance, but something about this moment, this strange connection with this broken woman, makes her honest. She tells Natasha about Lily, about the investigation, about the panic attacks and the sleepless nights and the feeling that she's drowning even when she's standing on solid ground. When she finishes, Natasha nods slowly. "We're both carrying dead weight," she says. "Grief we haven't processed. Guilt that's eating us alive, and we've both forgotten how to breathe through it." "I don't know how," Elena admits, and saying it out loud feels like both a relief and a defeat. Natasha is quiet for a long moment. Then she says something that surprises them both. "Let me teach you." Elena blinks. "What?" "You saved my life the other night. Whether you believe it or not, whether you think you did enough, you did. I'm alive because of you. Let me return the favor. Let me teach you what I used to teach others, what I need to remember myself. How to breathe slowly, how to sit with pain without running from it, how to forgive yourself for being human." That's not how this works, Elena protests. You're a patient. I'm a doctor. There are boundaries, rules. Rules, Natasha repeats, almost laughing. The rules didn't save either of us, did they? Look at where we are. Both of us in this hospital, both of us barely holding on. Maybe it's time to try something different. Elena wants to say no. Every part of her professional training screams that this is inappropriate, that she should walk away, focus on her own therapy, let this patient move on with her recovery journey. But then she remembers lying on her bedroom floor, unable to breathe, certain she was dying. She remembers Lily's mother's face. She remembers the growing distance between who she used to be and who she's become. I don't know, she says finally. Natasha reaches out and gently touches Elena's hand. Neither do I, but maybe that's okay. Maybe not knowing is where we start. The coffee shop is neutral territory. Not a hospital or office, just a small place downtown where people come to read and work and pretend the world isn't as complicated as it really is. Elena arrives 15 minutes early, her hand shaking as she orders tea she won't drink. Natasha shows up 10 minutes later, somehow sensing that Elena needs support but also space. She takes a table across the room, close enough to be there but far enough to let Elena have this moment for herself. Rebecca Chen walks in exactly on time. She's smaller than Elena remembers, thinner, like grief has physically diminished her. Her eyes scan the room until they land on Elena, and for a terrible moment Elena thinks the woman might turn around and leave. But she doesn't. She walks over slowly and sits down across from Elena without a word. They stare at each other for a long moment. Elena's training tells her to speak first, to express sympathy, to maintain professional composure. But something stops her. Maybe it's the breathing exercises. Maybe it's Natasha's influence. Maybe it's just exhaustion from 6 months of running. Whatever it is, Elena stays quiet and lets Rebecca take the lead. Thank you for meeting me, Rebecca finally says. Her voice is quiet but steady. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't, Elena admits. I wouldn't have blamed you. After the things I said to you. After how I treated you. Elena feels tears starting but forces them back. You were grieving. You lost your daughter. I don't blame you for anything you said. Rebecca shakes her head slowly. That's kind of you, but it's not true. I blamed you because I needed someone to blame. It was easier than accepting that sometimes terrible things just happen, that sometimes there's no one to blame, that sometimes we lose people we love and there's nothing anyone could have done to stop it. The tears Elena was holding back start to fall. She doesn't try to stop them this time. I've been in therapy, Rebecca continues, twice a week for the past 4 months. My therapist kept pushing me to contact you, said I needed closure, needed to apologize. I resisted for a long time. But she was right. I need to tell you that I'm sorry. For what I said. For what I put you through. You didn't deserve that. You were trying to save my daughter. You did everything you could. It wasn't enough, Elena whispers. No, Rebecca agrees. It wasn't enough. But that doesn't mean you failed. It means that sometimes, despite everything we do, despite all our knowledge and technology and prayers, we still lose people. And that's not anyone's fault. That's just the terrible truth of being alive. They sit in silence, both crying now, not hiding it, not apologizing for it. Around them, the coffee shop continues its normal rhythm, people typing on laptops and chatting with friends, oblivious to the profound moment happening in the corner booth. Can I tell you about her? Rebecca asks suddenly. About Lily? I need to remember her as more than just the patient who died. I need her to be real to you. Elena nods, unable to speak. Rebecca pulls out her phone and shows Elena pictures. Lily at her birthday party, chocolate cake smeared on her face. Lily at a school play, dressed as a tree and beaming with pride. Lily reading a book in bed, her face serious and concentrated. Lily, not a case file or a medical mystery, but a real child who loved art and hated broccoli and wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. She was so brave, Rebecca says, her voice breaking. Even at the end, even when she was scared, she kept trying to make me laugh. She kept telling me not to worry. She was 12 years old and she was trying to take care of me. Elena is sobbing now, not the quiet tears from before, but deep, wrenching sobs that come from somewhere she's been keeping locked away for months. I'm so sorry, she keeps saying. I'm so sorry I couldn't save her. I'm so sorry. Rebecca reaches across the table and takes both of Elena's hands in hers. Listen to me. Are you listening? Elena nods, struggling to breathe through her tears. Lily would want you to keep saving lives. She was that kind of kid. She wanted to help animals, wanted to make the world better. If she knew that her death made you stop being a doctor, made you stop helping people, that would break her heart. Do you understand? I can't, Elena gasps. Every time I see a patient, I think about her. I think about, what if I miss something? What if I make a mistake? What if someone else dies because I'm not good enough? But you are good enough. You were good enough for Lily. She got the best care possible. She got a doctor who cared so much that 6 months later, you're still grieving for her. How many people can say that about their doctors? How many kids get someone who fights that hard for them? Natasha appears beside their table, gently placing a hand on Elena's shoulder. Rebecca looks up at her, confused but not hostile. I'm sorry to interrupt, Natasha says softly. I'm a friend of Elena's. I can see this is hard for both of you. Would it help if I sat with you for a moment? Rebecca looks at Elena, who nods. Natasha slides into the booth beside Elena, not saying anything, just being there, a quiet presence of support. Who are you? Rebecca asks, not unkindly. Someone who understands loss, Natasha says simply. Someone who's learning that we can't carry grief alone. Something in Rebecca's face softens. You lost someone too. My husband and my son. 2 years ago. Car accident. Rebecca's eyes fill with fresh tears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too. For your daughter. For all of us who've had to say goodbye too soon. The three women sit together in that coffee shop, bound by loss, by guilt, by the terrible weight of loving people who are no longer here. They don't have answers. They don't have solutions. They just have this moment, this shared acknowledgement that pain is real and heavy, and sometimes the best we can do is not carry it alone. After a long while, Rebecca speaks again. I started a grief support group at my church for parents who've lost children. It helps having people who understand, but I also wanted to do something for Lily, something that would honor her memory. So I'm starting a scholarship fund in her name for kids who want to study veterinary medicine. That way she gets to help animals even though she's not here anymore. That's beautiful, Elena says. It's something. It doesn't bring her back, but it means she mattered. It means her life meant something beyond just the way she died. They talk for another hour, sharing stories, crying, even laughing a few times at funny memories. It's not healing exactly. It's too soon for that, maybe too soon forever, but it's something. A step forward, a crack of light through a very dark door. When they finally leave the coffee shop, Rebecca hugs Elena tightly. Thank you for trying to save her, she whispers. Thank you for caring. And please, please don't give up on being a doctor. The world needs people like you. Elena watches Rebecca walk away, disappearing into the crowded sidewalk. She feels lighter somehow, like she's been carrying a boulder and someone just helped her set it down. The boulder is still there. She'll have to pick it up again. But for this moment, this one moment, she can breathe without that crushing weight on her chest. Natasha stands beside her, silent and steady. You did it, she says finally. We did it, Elena corrects. I couldn't have done this without you. That's the thing about healing. We can't do it alone. We're not supposed to. That afternoon, Elena does something she hasn't done in 6 months. She goes back to the hospital, not to work, but to visit the ER staff lounge. She finds her supervisor and asks for a meeting. Together, they discuss Elena's return to work, but with changes. Elena proposes creating a quiet room in the ER, a small space where staff can go to decompress during difficult shifts, a place to breathe, to cry if needed, to remember they're human too. Her supervisor loves the idea. Within a week, they've converted a small storage room into what they call the breathing room. It has comfortable chairs, soft lighting, and a sign on the door that says, "It's okay to not be okay." The staff starts using it immediately. Nurses go there after losing a patient. Doctors go there after delivering bad news to families. Everyone goes there when the weight of saving lives becomes too much to carry alone. Elena returns to work slowly, just a few shifts a week at first. It's hard. Every time she sees a child patient, her chest tightens. Every time something goes wrong, she feels panic rising. But she uses Natasha's breathing techniques. She uses the breathing room. She talks to her colleagues. And slowly, very slowly, she starts to feel like herself again. Natasha, meanwhile, completes her certification program to become a grief counselor. It's not easy. There are setbacks. There are days when the cravings return, when the pain feels too big, when she wonders if she's strong enough to do this. But she keeps going. She starts a support group called Slow Breath for people dealing with trauma and anxiety. The group meets twice a week in a community center, and Elena attends when she can, sometimes as a participant, sometimes just as Natasha's friend. 6 months pass. Then 8, then 10. The anniversary of Lily's death approaches, and Elena thinks about it every day. She's not sure what to do, how to mark it, whether acknowledging it will break her all over again. The cemetery is quiet on a Tuesday afternoon. Elena walks slowly between the headstones, carrying a bouquet of sunflowers because Rebecca mentioned once that they were Lily's favorite. She's not sure if she's allowed to be here, if it's appropriate, if Rebecca would want this, but she needs to do it anyway. Lily's grave is small and simple, marked with a stone that has her name, her dates, and a carved image of a dog. Elena kneels in front of it, placing the flowers carefully on the grass. For a long moment, she doesn't say anything. What do you say to a child you couldn't save? What words could possibly be enough? "Hi, Lily," she finally whispers. "I don't know if you can hear me wherever you are. I don't know if I believe in any of that. But I needed to come here. I needed to tell you that I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't fix what was wrong. I'm sorry I couldn't give you more time. I'm sorry your mom had to say goodbye." The wind rustles through the trees, and Elena takes a slow, deep breath, the way Natasha taught her. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. Breathing through the pain instead of running from it. "Your mom came to see me," Elena continues. "Did you know that? She forgave me, even though I'm not sure I deserve it. She told me you'd want me to keep being a doctor, to keep helping people. I'm trying to do that. It's hard some days, really hard, but I'm trying." She sits there for almost an hour, sometimes talking, sometimes just sitting in silence. She tells Lily about the breathing room at the hospital, about how it's helping other staff members process their own grief and stress. She tells her about Natasha, about how 2 broken people found each other and are helping each other heal. She tells her about all the patients she's treated in the past few months, the lives she's saved, the small victories that make this impossible job worthwhile. When she finally stands to leave, Elena feels something shift inside her. Not healing exactly, not closure, but acceptance maybe. An acknowledgement that she can carry this grief and still keep living, still keep helping, still keep trying to be the doctor Lily deserved. That night, Elena is back at the hospital for her shift. It's been almost a year since that terrible night with Lily, and while the memories are still there, they don't crush her the way they used to. She's learned to breathe through them. Around midnight, a call comes in. Critical patient, teenage boy, respiratory distress, ETA 3 minutes. Elena's heart rate picks up slightly, but she doesn't panic. She takes 3 slow breaths, centers herself, and prepares to receive the patient. The ambulance arrives with a 16-year-old boy named David who's having a severe asthma attack. His lips are blue, his oxygen saturation is dangerously low, and his mother is hysterical beside him. This is exactly the kind of situation that would have triggered Elena's panic 6 months ago, the kind that would have made her freeze, made her forget to breathe, made her doubt every decision. But something is different now. Elena moves with calm confidence, directing her team, ordering treatments, adjusting ventilation. She's fully present, fully focused, not lost in fear or doubt or memories of the past. Her hands are steady. Her voice is clear. She remembers her training, but she also remembers her breathing. It takes 45 minutes, but they stabilize him. David's oxygen levels improve. His breathing becomes less labored. The monitors show improvement across every metric. His mother collapses in relief, sobbing thank you over and over. After the immediate crisis passes and David is transferred to the ICU for observation, Elena steps outside to the breathing room. She sits in one of the comfortable chairs, closes her eyes, and simply breathes. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Her chest doesn't feel tight. Her heart isn't racing. She's not counting down the minutes until she can escape. She pulls out her phone and texts Natasha. Major case tonight. Critical patient. We saved him. And I forgot to panic. I just breathed and did my job. Natasha's response comes quickly. That's the miracle. Not that we stop feeling, but that we remember we can breathe through anything. I'm proud of you. Elena smiles, a real smile, the kind she hasn't felt in a very long time. She thinks about the journey she's been on, from that terrible night with Lily to this moment now. She thinks about how she wanted to quit, to run away, to hide from the pain and responsibility. She thinks about Natasha, about Rebecca, about all the broken people who've helped her put herself back together. The rest of her shift is busy but manageable. She treats a broken arm, a possible appendicitis, a child with a high fever, an elderly woman with chest pain. Each patient is a person, a life, a story. She gives each one her full attention, her careful skill, her genuine care. When she makes decisions, she doesn't second-guess herself into paralysis. When she encounters uncertainty, she consults with colleagues instead of hiding in fear. When she feels overwhelmed, she takes a moment to breathe. As the sun starts to rise and her shift comes to an end, Elena realizes something profound. She's not the same doctor she was a year ago. That version of her died the night Lily did. But maybe that's okay. Maybe she's not supposed to be unchanged. Maybe growth means breaking apart and putting yourself back together in a new shape, a stronger shape, a shape that's learned to hold both joy and grief at the same time. She drives home as the city wakes up around her. Instead of going straight to her apartment, she detours to the park where she first met Natasha for those early morning breathing sessions. She parks her car and walks to their spot under the oak tree. The grass is wet with dew, and birds are singing their morning songs. She sits down and closes her eyes, feeling the cool air on her face, hearing the sounds of the city coming to life. She breathes slowly, intentionally, not because she's panicking, but because she's choosing to be present in this moment, in her body, in her life. Her phone buzzes with a text from her mother, who she's been talking to regularly now instead of avoiding. Another text from her supervisor, thanking her for her excellent work tonight. Another from Mrs. Chen next door, asking if she wants to come over for tea when she gets home. Elena looks at all these connections, all these people who care about her, who've supported her through the darkest time of her life. She thinks about how she tried to carry everything alone, how she pushed everyone away, how she thought strength meant never needing help. How wrong she was. She texts Natasha one more time. Thank you for teaching me to breathe again. For reminding me I don't have to carry everything alone. Natasha's response is immediate. Thank you for giving me a reason to keep teaching. You saved my life that night, but you also saved my purpose. We saved each other. Elena sits there for a while longer, just breathing, just being. The weight of Lily's death is still there. It will always be there. But she's learned to carry it differently now, to integrate it into who she is rather than letting it crush who she was. She's learned that healing isn't about forgetting or moving on. It's about learning to breathe slowly through the pain, about finding moments of light even in the darkest places, about accepting that being human means feeling everything. As she finally stands to leave, Elena notices something she hasn't seen before. There's a small plaque near the base of the oak tree. She walks over to read it. The plaque is a memorial for someone who died in this park, someone whose life ended here, but whose memory lives on in this quiet space. She thinks about how we mark loss, how we remember people who are gone, how we try to make meaning from tragedy. She thinks about Rebecca's scholarship fund for Lily. She thinks about the breathing room at the hospital. She thinks about Natasha's support group. All these small ways of saying that loss is real, but so is love, that grief is heavy, but so is hope. Elena takes one more slow breath, feeling it fill her lungs completely, then release it fully. She's not fixed. She's not healed. But she's breathing, and that's enough for now. She's learned that sometimes the slowest breath is the bravest one, the breath that says, I'm still here, I'm still trying, I'm still willing to feel everything it means to be alive. She walks back to her car, ready to go home, ready to rest, ready to face whatever comes next. Tomorrow there will be another shift, more patience, more chances to help or fail or learn. Tomorrow there will be more grief to carry and more joy to discover. Tomorrow she'll breathe slowly through it all, one moment at a time, remembering that she's not alone, that healing is possible, that even after the darkest night, the sun still rises, and in that rising sun, in that simple act of continuing to breathe and live and try, Elena finds something she thought she'd lost forever. Not happiness exactly, not peace, but something quieter and deeper. Hope. The kind of hope that doesn't promise everything will be okay, but promises that even when things aren't okay, you can still keep breathing, keep trying, keep being human in all its beautiful, terrible complexity. She drives home as the city fully awakens. And for the first time in a very long time, she's looking forward to tomorrow. Not because it will be easy, but because she knows now that she's strong enough to face it. Slowly. One breath at a time. Together with the people who've learned to breathe beside her. That's the real miracle. Not that pain disappears, but that we learn to breathe through it. Not that we forget, but that we remember how to keep living anyway. Not that we save everyone, but that we keep trying, keep caring, keep showing up even when it hurts. And in that showing up,